Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're gonna go into Inferno 1 now to get that mission on the Union bingo board, I believe is where it is. I don't even think I'm there yet. Oh, maybe I am. It's right here. Alright, so in order to get this 5-star ticket and these 20 dragon sphere thingy bobbers, you gotta clear Inferno 1. I'm just gonna let you know right now, it's not fun. If you even if you have Gobwa and Shuna, it's actually still a bit difficult depending on your support units, because Gobwa just unfortunately does not do enough damage most of the time. So this field is still the same, either 2 blues or a triple orb steal, whatever you want to do. There are missions attached to it. I just have to do it with physical characters now. But Hinata jumps up from like 1.2 million to 25.7 million HP. So that's quite a hefty jump right there. She still nerfs blues, she nerfs greens now, so you really can't rely that much on a green focused team. Magic resistance, crit, and now synergy resistance. So you could freely synergy in EX2. Not anymore. And then still the stun evasion and everything else she does. Nothing else here is super wild except the stun, or maybe the bind. I can't remember what EX2 doesn't have. It doesn't have one of those. But most importantly is the green nerf and then the synergy nerf. So that really drops your options down to not a lot. So, I mean, I've got a couple teams here for you. I kind of doubt that you'll be able to do it super duper easily, especially if you're a new player. If you're a new player, Inferno and higher is endgame content. Like, you're just not going to have the units, and that's just something you're going to have to deal with. So, go beat the other stages, go beat, story quests, and continue building up your town. But for this, like, if you have the teams that I'm going to show, then great. And if you found something else, then for the love of God, put it in the comments. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you have Tournament Stalwart Lumi, if you summoned for her, if you got lucky for her, and you got her, and you got some other support characters, then you're already in a pretty good spot, because Lumi is way overpowered, even in an AoE setting. Hinata also has AoE resistance when you get to the higher stages, so Lumi just doesn't care about that. So we've got Fern, we've got the Space Velzard for the extra resistant, or Frostbite, so we get extra resistance buffs on top of the Dread that Shuna is giving. Gobwa is here, and then we got the Divine General Masked Hero for the Rewind and the Pierce power. So, this works pretty well, because Lumi is both your turn 1 Orb Stealer and your DPS character. Gobwa is here for her buffs and, well, her debuffs and stuff. We're not really going to do damage with Gobwa. We're just going to nuke the crap out of Hinata with Lumi. So, let's go ahead and bring these characters in. We'll triple Orb Steal. And then this isn't enough to get us the EX ult with Lumi. We're just a nut tap shy, but we have the rewind from the Masked Hero, which, if you don't have this Masked Hero and you have the old Masked Hero, you can certainly do it. It's just, you're not going to get that ult rush, so you're going to have to leave Lumi in for like a little bit extra instead of just getting the EX ult here and then sending her away freely. But it works. Also, you don't need Space Velzard. Like, if you are lacking extra damage, you need a different damage buff instead of the Frostbite effect, because that's all she's doing here, then you can also just bring somebody else. But we've rewound, we've sent Lumi to the back, we've used her physical buff, and we've used 1 stack of the Gobwa debuffs to get that going, and now the rewind kicks in. We'll use the Pierce buff because it affects the backline, and we're going to hold it on Lumi. And then we'll use Shuna again. Full hand of oranges, 2 rainbows. This actually gets us Gobwa's EX ult as well, which is cool. We're not going to hold the Pierce buff on her, because obviously she's active right now. But at least we have a secondary ult in case maybe your team needs a bit extra damage because your Lumi isn't as strong or something. But now, we'll send her away. It's turn 3. We'll bring Space Velzard in for Gobwa. We'll use the Frostbite skill now, because Space Velzard's, it lasts for 3 turns. Water Velzard only lasts for 2. So it makes Space Velzard like slightly better. It's 10 points more expensive, but an extra turn out of it is nice to have. That way you don't have to worry about it on turn 4 or 5. And then we pretty much just run it, and we do what we need to do here. So let's do pretty much... let's see, what are we doing here? We do need to get some extra debuffs on, so we're up to 11 now. And then we're just going to send it. Okay. We want maximum points for turn 5. Frostbite is active. Now Shuna, even if we don't get access to her on turn 5, we still have her effects going. We still have the resistances down. We still have the dread effect, so it's not super duper important you have her on turn 5. It just helps your damage if you get like a full hand of oranges or something. But there's the alt resistance down and the EX alt damage up, so that's another debuff. We'll bring Lumi in, who's holding on to the Pierce buff and her own physical buff, and then we'll bring Gobwa in for Velzard, and we have just enough points to do 1, 2. So we'll do the debuffs first, that maxes us out, then we've got 120% Pierce resistance down, and then we'll go ahead and nuke with Lumi and Gobwa first, just to see. 14 million for Gobwa, and 38.6 million for Lumi. So, yeah. AoE resistance doesn't actually matter here. She's going to do way too much damage, and that would probably get you very close to taking out Dire too, if you can run this setup as well. So, there's like the quote-unquote full meta, full whale team. I know some people are using, instead of Hero, they're using the Tournament Stalwart Rimuru instead. I guess he's better, but I'm gonna assume that you guys don't have them. Alright, and for the unfortunate people that don't have Lumi, we have this kind of backup team. It is quite iffy, unfortunately, but it also assumes you have both Shuna and Gobwa. We've got Fern again, we've got Summer Hinata to be the triple orb stealer, we've got New Year's Shinsha for the alt buff, because it's 55 points, you can literally bring anybody. We're not using her crit buff at all, so that's unuseful. But she also does have that single alt swap to orange, so at least she is doing a couple different things here. And then Gobwa and then Benimaru will be our DPS characters. Benimaru, his alt resistance down, whether or not he's skill fused, is overshadowed by Ferns, so we're only going to hold on to the physical buff on Gobwa. And then we have technically 3 physical single target dark characters here in Hinata, Benimaru, and Gobwa, and we're going to need all 3 of them, unfortunately, here today, because we just don't quite do enough damage by ourselves. I also had to enchant Gobwa's katana to 24% pierce power in order to do this. I couldn't do it before that, so just keep that in mind as well. That's just your fair warning. So, Triple Orb Steal, turn 1, into Gobwa. That also does not get us her EX ult, but not even close. So we're going to have to do some fun things here. We can do the alt swap, though, and because we have 2 orbs for her, that's like the bare minimum, is having 2 orbs. So 1 from the alt and then 1 extra. That means that we can get her EX ult in this turn. So, let's go ahead and do the Shuna convert. We can't use Gobwa's debuff skill until the nuke turn. Otherwise, it's too expensive. It's too expensive to do what we want to do here and use it twice. So you're just going to have to deal with that. But there's the EX ult. Let's hold on to the physical buff for Gobwa and send her away. And at this point, you're going to be attempting to get 2 more single target ults for Benimaru and Hinata. You're going to need them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gets us the Benimaru. Whether or not it's an EX ult is... yeah, an EX would certainly help, but you probably want all 3 of them, like 2 normals, and then the Gobwa EX ult would be best, at least for what I need to do here. Let's go ahead and take Benimaru out. We'll do this, and we'll just send these. That gets us the Hinata ult, and gives us that little extra bit of gauge we need to get Shuna active for next turn. And now we have 3 single target dark ults. Hinata, Beni, Gobwa. 210 points. We have to use pretty much everything, so we'll use the EX ult down, or EX ult up and ult down. We'll use Shinsha's ult damage up, and then we'll bring in Gobwa, and we'll bring in Benimaru, and we can use the 2 Gobwa buffs here, and we're going to have just enough points, like exactly enough points to do that, which is why we can't use her previously. So, debuffs, boom, gets us up to 13, which is not max, but it's better than nothing. And then we'll go ahead and send all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Hinata does 2.1 million. All right. Benimaru does 3.2 million. And then Gabua, with her EX ult, does 19 million. So, yeah, not quite enough there, but we do have the follow-up orbs. So Hinata's orb's not going to do anything. But then Gabua's first orb, 344k. So it's quite a not fun team for a lot of people. They're not going to have probably a lot of these options, especially the new characters that I'm telling people to skip. So if you did get lucky and you do have them, then great. And if you don't, well, then hopefully the next team can help you out. Okay, so I recorded a run using like the full Reckoning team. If you have it, or you have like some semblance of it, you can probably get this done. But I'm going to heavily assume that you probably don't have Yuki and you don't have Frey. Maybe you have Masayuki, maybe you have Hinata. You obviously have Shizu and Carrion. Carrion, it's going to be a hard sell, though, because he just is not as good, and this is not a stage that's, like, built for him. It's built for a totally different team, so using it when greens are nerfed is pretty not fun. So just know that Reckoning can do it in about 10 turns or so with quite a few stacks, and the HP buff. So if we just kind of watch this turn go, and we'll see what the Reckoning does here on turn 10. Alright, so some extra stacks there. And then we'll kind of move forward with the actual team that I wanted to show off that people might be able to build. So, okay, yep, thank you for the ult. Yep, thank you, and then heal. And then the Reckoning comes in and does like 8 something? 9 something? No, sorry, 14.6 million. So, full Reckoning can do it. Half, like, if you have Masayuki and Hinata only, you can probably still get away with it. Yuki is just an orb changer, and you know, the green buffer, he works. You could very easily bring somebody else. Frey, like, if you want to clear it in under a number of turns, then yeah, sure, you can use her HP buff, but she's not all that useful either. So you could replace her with another orb changer, or like free-to-play Isis or something, but she can work for you. But let's go ahead and jump to the other half-ish Reckoning team that I've got. Okay, this is what we're gonna rock here, and it's certainly a team. So we've got Protector Himmel, in case you have him. He's an orange protector. He's gonna give like a lot of that orb changing capability. We've got Octagram Guy for the stun. Hinata has stun resistance up until turn 8, and after that, you can stun her, which is what we're going to need to do. Hinata is here for the Reckoning and the damage absorption. We're going to need that. Stark is here for his taunt. Otherwise, you could probably skip him, actually. You don't really need him. I didn't need him to taunt or dodge the bind at all, because no one got binded. And then we've got Shinsha for the protection gauge buff, and that's it. And then Shizu for the Reckoning stacks. Really we don't use her orb change that much, because obviously we're trying to run an orange team and not a green team. And most of the time we're not looking great on the orb changes. But turn 1, we don't have anybody to convert this, so we're just going to have to send what we have. We'll bring Shizu in, because we've got protection gauge on both these characters. We could use the protection gauge buff right now, but it kind of seems like a waste, so we're just going to send these blues, and unfortunately we didn't get a 6th orange orb. It would have been really cool if we did, but oh well. Let's go ahead and use it now. She is skill fused, so her protection skill in orange is cheaper than normal. Normally it's 25 points, with the fusion it's 15, so that's the difference right there. But at least we can get some protection gauge, and it lasts for 2 turns, which is kind of nice. Raphael only lasts for 1, but he's also a triple orb stealer, so he can kind of delete RNG in 2 different ways. But now, let's go ahead and put the Reckoning stacks on, and then we use Himmel to convert those into oranges. We'll get all those points from the 6 oranges here, and that's going to be our bread and butter, essentially, is getting a butt ton of points every single turn, and then using what we need to do. The Reckoning doesn't get wiped off. So after turn 5, like, you will start doing damage to her, but we're not applying it at a super quick rate, because we're not running a full Reckoning team. We're not getting it from the Protector, we're not getting it from Yuki, we're not giving our HP increase from Frey, right? Like, we're not doing that here. We are just using what we can, and we also don't have a multi-skill, so we can use Hinata and Shizu once a turn. Cool. But we do have the HP regen field, which when you heal, you would get those stacks if you were running Masayuki. This is just to keep us alive so we can survive until turn 8, because sometimes she targets somebody a lot and then they can get kind of low. So we have the taunt that we could use for that instead. We just have to avoid the bind and the stun here on turn 5, because that could be kind of a difference maker depending on what you're trying to do. So we're going to alt swap just to get a little bit extra gauge on the oranges, and then we'll taunt, and then we can hopefully pull the bind and stun to Stark. But I think we discovered that we don't really need that. So we'll just send this. We've got 21 stacks or something maybe on our team right now. Alright, so there's the stun. And he didn't get binded, but those two got binded, which is honestly kind of fine. So we didn't need his bind to dodge here because he had his special bracelet on. But he is stunned anyways, which is probably the best case scenario because he's doing the least amount of stuff for us and he's not applying Reckoning at all. So it's just a character that we can't swap out because he's stunned, and we can't swap the other two out because they're binded. But we can still send oranges, we can still attempt to apply, we could still use the healing field. And now turn 7, this is the final turn. You can see that we're blinking on the stun resistance up on Hinata's bar, so that will leave next turn. The bind and the stun for us will also leave next turn. So starting turn 8, you're just going to keep Hinata stunned. So she can't do anything, she can't heal, she can't rebind or re-stun you, and then you're just stun locking her. And you're using like probably the Hinata Reckoning skill and the Guy stun every turn, and every other turn you're using the protection gauge buff from Shensha. So now it becomes very cheesy. So boom, okay, we'll bring Guy in for Stark, okay, we'll stun, boom, and now we just do this for the entire game. So 281 points, let's go ahead and send this, and yeah, we'll see how much Reckoning does right here after this turn is over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Reckoning does 1.4 million damage. So you're going to do progressively more and more than that as time goes on. But let's go ahead and skip to turn 12. And he's still stunned. 2.4 million damage, so he went up a million. Okay, cool. And then let's stun, and let's Reckoning again, and you do it again. So as long as you can get to turn 8 and everyone is alive, then you could just cheese the crap out of it. And if you wanted to, you could use like Octagram, or not Octagram, but Overlord Rimuru instead. Like, that'll work too. You'll still get a lot of skill points back. You just won't get a lot of protection gauge because they're nerfed permanently. But Himmel being more recent and one that people probably summon for. Because if you don't have Himmel, you really don't have Overlord Rimuru at that point. So this is your best option. I can't really think of anyone else that would also work in place of him. Like, since greens are so heavily nerfed, blues are so heavily nerfed, and orange stacking isn't a thing until Himmel came out, he's really your only option here. So, turn 15, we'll stun, and yeah, we'll do that. Let's just skip ahead. Turn 16. Turn 16, still stunned, and this will be the final finishing blow, and it does 3.1 million damage. So this team works. It's really not fun, and it takes a while, and I won't get you that turn 7 mission, but it'll work. And if you don't have Hinata, then you're going to go even slower, because you would then only have Shizu applying Reckoning, but you can probably still get it done. You just won't do it nearly as fast. Alright, the last team I have for you is actually stolen from D2, the NA Tryhard Sweat. He uses this team. He does it in a different way, because this team, with the way he does it, clears Dire 2, whereas this one will clear Inferno 1 and 2. I don't know if it'll clear Dire 1, but I'll have a link to his video in the description below in case you want to see the Dire 2 run. But we're going to run it the way that I thought it was going to be run, which is not correct, but it's still enough to get the job done. We again have Gabwa and Shuna, and then we've got Benimaru. We've brought Divine General Raphael and, unfortunately, Freeran Adventurer Raphael. So we've got him here. And then we've got Tournament Stalwart Rimuru. So this is a very whaley team, as I kind of explained in the beginning of the video. So I would not expect a lot of people to be able to do this, but it is an option in the rare chance that you actually have everybody. Let me make sure this is the right run, though. Okay, it is the right run. Cool. Alright, so turn 1, we're going to use the Orb Steel. He converts those 2 blues into oranges, and then we'll use the first stack of Space Divine General Raphael alt buff. We're not on a synergy team, so we don't really need the synergy power. Obviously, it's nerfed anyways, so nothing really good comes out of that. But the stacking alt damage does definitely help. So we've got the Gabwa EX alt, that's great. And then we can send her away. We don't have Fern here, so we're going to hold on to the Benimaru buff because we want both alts here, just to make sure that we can reliably kill. So we're not going to use that till the actual nuke turn. So Gabwa can come out. Also, we're going to hold on to the Gabwa buff as well, and her debuffs. We're not going to use it more than once, so we're going to do that on the nuke turn as well. So Shuna, convert. Tournament Stalwart Rimuru converts a green and an orange into 2 rainbows, and then combined with the Shuna rainbows, it gives us 4, which is great for protection gauge and everything. So he's actually really, really good for this team, who right now does not have an alt buffer or a weakness strike character as well. So both of his skills are actually quite useful here. I kind of find it interesting that a lot of Rimurus aren't good on their own teams that they're meant for, but they're good months later. And the biggest example I would give would be Exalted Champion Rimuru. I didn't really like him on the Exalted Champion team, but he was really, really, really good on the antagonist team 5 months later. So, we'll see. But here, Orb Steel, let's go ahead and use Shuna so we can get the Benimaru EX alt as well. Change that. Yep, there we go. Get some more rainbows because we used Tournament Stalwart Rimuru's convert again. And now we kind of have to hold on to some points, because we need to make sure we have as much as possible going into turn 5. So, Benimaru goes away. We've already used the Space and Dark buff so that Gabwa can hold on to that in the back. We're going to Orb Steel here, get the full hand, get Shuna again, and that's all we're going to do, and we're going to pray that that gives us enough points to cap out, which thankfully it does, plus a protection gauge from Shuna so we can get a full hand of oranges. And now we're going to be ready to nuke once we apply all the different buffs that we have waiting for us. So thank you for that. Cool. I think D2 said that he holds on to both Raphael buffs, the Dark and then the Attack and Weakness Strike. We don't use Freerin Raphael's buff at all here, so we're just going to skip it. So we're going to use Tournament Stalwart's buff, 100% alt damage, 50% weakness strike for everybody. We'll bring Gabwa in for Raphael now, and then we'll bring Benimaru in for Rimuru, since we've already used his skill. And then the physical buff, and then the Gabwa debuffs. Boom, boom. Get as many of those counts of debuffs as we can. Also use Shuna, because that's another debuff. And now we'll use the actual Pierce, which is up to 105%, which is not very far off from the 120. And then one more stack of alt damage from Space Raphael, Divine General. And then we'll send all this, and that'll be the end. 890k a hit from Gabwa is cool. 1.8 million. Benimaru does 5.6, and Gabwa does 21.2 million on her nuke. So there are a couple different teams that can take on Inferno 1 to get the mission done. Again, they are very whaley, very specific teams. If you have any others that you found that worked, like if you want to post your free-to-play Reckoning team that was able to do it, then please be my guest. But otherwise, that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.